Mardi Gras party, and everybody is invited.
Explaining entertainment, keeping you ahead of the culture curve. It's what we do each and every day here on the WDW Pro channel. If you like content like that, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and that notification bell. It is great to click it and stick it to the algorithms. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, that the Pro Show, our first live show here on the channel, will debut March 23rd, 5 to 7 p.m., and every Thursday thereafter. In fact, you'll probably see some of these same guests joining us today throughout the weeks and throughout the months as we get going with the Pro Show. You're not going to want to miss a second of that. And finally, don't forget, we care about your comments. We care about what you think. Please drop a comment down below. Let us know what's on your mind. All right. A lot of times people don't think of travel, theme parks, leisure, these sorts of things as entertainment, but indeed it is, and it's one of the key things that we cover here on the channel. It's something that separates us from some of the other pop culture centers out there on YouTube, but we like to cover the things that you dream about, that you think about, that you want to go and do to get away from your 9-to-5 job out there. Those beautiful places and things to do in the summers and the falls, we're all about it. And one of those things happens to be the Walt Disney World Resort and Disneyland Resort. Joining us to talk about that is going to be VashSky, and then we're going to segue over to talk about a major development with Universal Studios with Theme Park Wizard. Vash, before we hop into this topic about Splash Mountain, I do want to take a moment for us all to remember that yesterday I did a video giving a tribute to the life of Valerie Stewart. She's been an integral part of protecting the legacy of Splash Mountain, the legacy of her father, Nick Stewart. Essentially the first black voice actor, a pioneer in the entire industry. His name should be a household name, and Valerie Stewart should be as well. And she passed away, unfortunately, and so we want to give respect to her family. And in everything we do with Splash Mountain, we're remembering the pioneers, James Baskett, Hattie McDaniel, Nick Stewart, and all of those who partook in trying to break down the racial divides and bring us together in unity. However that's perceived today, we honor their memories and their legacies. So Vash, tell us a little bit about what you have come across in regards to Splash Mountain, and I'll just let you open up and then we'll hop in the article that you sent over my way.
Yes, it is. It's particularly interesting when you compare the Walt Disney Company and how they operate domestically versus what they do internationally and so forth. We've seen the disparities between marketing, let's say, for certain films when it comes to the Asian market and so forth, Chinese market specifically, right? But their international parks are a very interesting a mix of different voices in the room, and one of those happens to be the Oriental Land Company as it relates to Tokyo Disneyland, or the Tokyo Disney Resort out there in Japan. And that it's an interesting arrangement because the Oriental Land Company, they came to Disney initially and said, "Hey, we want to do a theme park out here." And initially, Disney was dismissive of the idea until they needed capital of their own for Epcot. And it was like, okay, fine, we'll go ahead. We'll dedicate some of our resources to getting a Disney park opened across the world, and it was their first international location in that regard. The arrangement, though, is interesting because, the Oriental Land Company, they own and operate it, and they collect the overwhelmingly large amount of royalties and so forth. And there is a royalty percentage there for Disney and a license fee. And also, too, they have to go to WDI exclusively for consultation when it comes to expansions, new attractions, and so forth. And this arrangement,
being Walt Disney Imagineering, for those not familiar with the nomenclature.
I do apologize. You're right. Correct. Yes, the Walt Disney Imagineering, and it has been very interesting to see how this has worked in the past, because it's usually Walt Disney Imagineers going up to Oriental Land Company executives and pitching their ideas to add or expand their theme park resort. Even Tokyo Disney Seas, which is the second theme park at Tokyo Disney Resort, which is world famous now, was a very hard sell back initially when it was pitched. And so it's always been kind of this back and forth. Like, sometimes the Oriental Land Company, they see something in the parks that they want, but most of the times nowadays it's WDI pitching them. And Pro, I think you have some very distinct information as it relates to Splash Mountain and the existence of, let's say, a famous song connected to that attraction, and as it exists out in Tokyo Disneyland. Splash Mountain is still there operating, and in fact, I think you have an article to show us around the time that Disney was, attempting to hype up their upcoming Tiana's Bayou Adventure redo for Splash Mountain. Last summer, well, Tokyo kind of doubled down, and they said, "Hey, we have a new promotion, Get Wet Max," and it was, they added spray nozzles to the briar patch when you actually take that plunge down into it.
Let me dive into this article real quick so the audience can get a taste for this.
Go ahead.
This is from the Disney blog by Michelle Snow. This coming back from June 30th of 2022 when we were first getting details of Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Mm-hmm. This is how the Oriental Land Company responded to Disney at the time. Remember that Disney wants essentially nothing to do with Song of the South. The Brer characters, they have claimed that Zippity Doo Dah, which has been a classic and a staple and has been sung by people of African descent and celebrities of that nature for decades as an anthem of rejoicing in their identity. Disney has claimed that is no longer a relevant song, and it's no longer inclusive, so they are trying to strike it and any other references to Song of the South or Splash Mountain from the playlists of all Disney parks. But here's how Oriental Land Company responded. We should say that OLC, that is the company which controls the Japanese theme park resort for Disney, that they often hold Disney to a much higher standard than Disney holds itself.
Absolutely.
And so as we read this article, take note that Tokyo is deciding they do not want to switch over to this new version that Disney is going into with the domestic parks. And that may indicate to you the quality that Tokyo believes Tiana's Bayou Adventure represents. Here's what we've got. Tokyo Disney Resort to host Splash Mountain Soaked Max this summer. It's well known that Splash Mountain is a ride you will probably get wet on, but this summer, the Tokyo Disney Resort version of the attraction is going Soaked Max. From July 1st through August 31st, 2022, guests who choose to ride Splash Mountain at Tokyo Disney will get extra water spray on the drop. How wet the park is offering the following warning. A large amount of water will be applied to the face, clothes, shoes, more. Be careful not to get your electronic devices, such as smartphones, wet, such as in your bag or pocket. And it continues on with a tweet and other things, going over how at the same time that Disney was pushing Tiana's Bayou Adventure everywhere else and trying to get Japan to go along with that, Japan was actually promoting Splash Mountain even more than ever before.
Yes.
So take that, Disney.
And that just shows you their kind of defiance towards this. I mean, and look, listen, I mean, the Oriental Land Company has been, you kind of have to coax them into some of these buys that Disney is pitching sometimes, at least for some of its attractions. I know, like I said, Tokyo Disney Seas, that was a hard sell. They basically had to strip it down eventually and just say, hey, this Mount Prometheus, this volcano, that's your Cinderella Castle. This Sinbad attraction, that's your Small World. That's how they pitched it. But now it's become world famous. And the reason why is because, well, they actually pay a lot to have these things constructed. They want a quality product at the end of the day. So they're not going to just, buy everything. They're going to be very choosy, very selective with what they do and how they spend their money. And hey, look, with Trita Carter's previous attraction to Tiana's Bayou Adventure, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, they were, all too happy. They were very impressed with what they saw, and I guess Disney felt, oh, okay, well, if they're impressed with this, I'm sure this Splash Mountain redo that we want to, champion will be an easy sell, but apparently not.
They
And
probably shouldn't have handed that over to Carmen Smith because she's never had a successful attraction released yet. So,
exactly.
Theme Park Wizard. Let me tell you what I have heard in the last little while. I don't want to give away too much, and I don't want to give away time frames, but it's come to my attention that allegedly, once again, Disney went to the Oriental Land Company, to the Japanese company that runs the Tokyo Disneyland or Disney Resort, and Disney was now open to paying for the quote-unquote upgrade to change Splash Mountain into Tiana's Bayou Adventure there. That's what I've been told. I can't verify that, but I can tell you the source that I've been talking to is someone that I've used for a long time to great success. But I'm told that OLC came back with the same response, which was absolutely, positively, satisfactorily no. Wizard, what do you think about this refusal from Japan to go along with what Disney clearly wants them to do, and this rift that's opening up between the two companies?
Well, like VashSky said above, Tokyo Disneyland is full of quality. Disney Sea, everything's very nice there. I felt like they even when they're getting it almost for free, it seemed like with that offer there. They probably looked at the new models and the concept art from D23. They're probably at D23 and looked at it and they're like, what is this? This doesn't look good. So again, they're definitely not up to standards, up to par with them. They probably actually even saw even more, than Disney showed us, than what they have there as a selling point. And they're probably like, ugh, I'm going away from this. Because it just obviously didn't seem up to par with them. They're probably like, where's the tree stump? Why is that out of there? They're like, you're going to ruin my mountain probably. And they probably weren't.
They might be looking at the original concept art that came out for Tiana's Bayou Adventure and now looking at the real thing they're getting and saying, no, that doesn't look at all like what you showed us in 2000.
Exactly.
And they're probably looking at what's happening on the inside, on some of those show scenes with the mist or whatever is going on. They're probably not impressed. So they're probably like a hard refusal. And, good on them, though. But that means, I guess we should be a little bit worried about that then.
Yeah, if the Oriental Land Company saying
that
no.
miniature model has us all worried. Bash, what were you saying?
Oh, I was just going to say, sorry, Pro, I do apologize. I didn't mean to speak over you there. If the Oriental Land Company is saying no, and vehemently no, even with maybe some of these costs provided for by Disney to actually facilitate this, that is a big warning sign to all of us that maybe Disney doesn't have the best pitch as it relates to this this attraction, right? And they've been cagey with releasing stuff as of late. We know very, very little about this project, and they're saying they're going to do new songs and so forth. It's going to take on a brand new story. It's going to have an original song. Yeah, I mean, the attraction. If you really want to do an attraction for Princess Tiana as part of Princess and the Frog, there are ways by which that kind of fits in Splash Mountain. I'm not saying that I'd be a fan of that either necessarily, but there are ways in which you can incorporate it into Splash Mountain. But Disney didn't want to do that. They want to go in a completely different direction with this next chapter story, this kind of co-op salt mine, featuring original songs and a few of the characters that you actually know and love from the actual movie. And it's just getting to this point where it's like we're so far away from the actual Princess and the Frog itself. And here's the thing. They touted, originally Disney, that a famous Imagineer was working on this project in cooperation with a team actually redoing Splash Mountain, one that actually worked on the original mountain itself.
Assuming you're talking about Tony Baxter, is that right?
Right, Tony Baxter, that is correct. And he is a renowned Imagineer for his work as it relates to Disneyland Paris and Splash Mountain itself, and Indiana Jones Adventure, Star Tours, and so on. And, well, it's interesting how you haven't heard his name at all mentioned as part of this project. We haven't seen any promo.
Lots of people and companies are fleeing from this.
Yes. And there's...
He even spoke about it.
He did, but Wizard, We cannot reveal. We can't reveal that information as to why he's not attached to the project. Just know, Pro, and your viewers out there, that there's a reason why you haven't seen him connected with this project. And like Pro alluded to, it might be because, well, they don't necessarily want to be associated with it.
Okay, so another property that a company involved in theme parks seems not to want associated with for a different reason is coming to us by way of Theme Park Wizard, who wrote an article for that park place called The Simpsons may be moving out of Universal Studios. Let me read this for just a minute, then I'll hand it over to Wizard to give us the rundown in more depth. Is Springfield on the chopping block at Universal Studios Hollywood? Signs point to yes. No matter how you feel about Springfield, it seems that it may not be around for much longer. Before you go jumping up and down thinking that the Simpsons ride is closing, I have some bad news for you in that regard. This rumor is just limited to Springfield for the time being. A source of mine has told me Springfield will indeed be closing this year, but the Simpsons ride will likely remain open for a while longer. This makes sense, as Universal Studios Hollywood does not want to close a major ride without opening a new one in its place. So, Wizard, give us a breakdown. And by the way, we've got this concept art from Screamscape. Credit to them, Screamscape.com, where the Springfield area is no longer themed as such. So, Wizard, tell us how you found this out without giving away, any sources that you might have, and what you think the ramifications are.
All right, so about last Friday, I believe, Universal quietly updated their website with their new lands page, that link I sent you there, and it says explore our land hub or something, explore our theme lands, and it says look at our 10 themed lands, in which they include City Walk, not a land, but they include it, and then they have City Walk, Minion Land, Harry Potter, Hollywood, Jurassic World, Production Plaza, Nintendo, Studio Tour Plaza, Transformers, and Waterworld. And, Springfield is obviously way more themed than some of those things they included in there. So I got everyone thinking, where's Springfield? Where's Spring? To this day, I hear people saying, oh, it's a glitch, they'll update the website. But it's been a week. They would have done it already, right? Now I have two sources that say the Simpsons ride. They told me last year the Simpsons ride was leaving in 2024. But this one source told me Springfield will be leaving this year. I'm like, oh, okay, but he said the ride will also be still in 2024, which makes sense because currently they're constructing Fast and Furious, that coaster down there in the concept art, and I would think as part of the construction process for that, they would just start to retheme at least that section of Springfield to make it a Fast and Furious area, so to speak. So by the time it opens in summer 2024, that they'll have the ride and this LA Fast and Furious area type of thing with the Simpsons ride, and then a few months later, the Simpsons ride would be closing, and then that building actually is pretty structurally bad in shape, so they just probably knocked that all down. And it seems to be lining up. I mean, again, Universal's not stupid. They wouldn't, even if they made a mistake on their land page hub, they wouldn't wait a week to fix it. They would have done it right away. If you go on it right now, it's still not there. And then with this, compared with this unofficial concept art, and what I've heard seems to be lining up with Springfield demise in the not too distant future.
Now, Vash, I've got some thoughts on this. I think that what's happening here is that Universal is looking at the fact that Disney now owns The Simpsons.
Absolutely.
There's no real advantage to holding The Simpsons at their park as opposed to Marvel, where they have a major advantage in keeping that in Orlando.
Correct.
And forcing Disney to not have their MCU characters, most of them. But with The Simpsons, maybe Universal is identifying that this is a franchise in decline, and it's sort of an unstated thing inside the industry, and very much stated now, as we've been doing this coverage for about a week and heavier now in the last few days about Disney Plus having a major decline. Universal Studios may be looking at all this and saying The Simpsons is not the hot property that we want to devote significant real estate to anymore.
Yes.
What do you think? What do you think their overall strategy here might be in terms of replacements?
I think it's it's an interesting concept there. There are several factors at issue. I think one Wizard actually alluded to in his initial thoughts there, where the building, the structural integrity of the Simpsons ride is actually compromised. Again, that goes back to the Future, where that building was first constructed on the side of a mountain. So it's like, we might be looking to either improve the structural stability of this building, but maybe it's just best to kind of get rid of it. You have the Simpsons area, which is nice, but doesn't necessarily lend itself to a themed environment in the way that maybe Nintendo or Wizarding World does.
It's probably not selling merchandise the way Nintendo is. Is that fair to say?
Very, very fair to say, yes. Now, those food locations are popular, but there's some of the biggest food locations in the entire park.
Wizard, are you into Krusty Burgers?
I have actually never had a Krusty Burger.
Wizard, what about you? What's your review on a Krusty Burger? What's your review, Wizard?
Krusty Burger is it's my third favorite restaurant in the whole park. I really like Krusty Burger, in my opinion. Right. I know most people don't.
Now those,
but I liked it. I was like, that's my go-to horror night snack as well. Oh my gosh! But also because they have a lot of seating. It's great.
There's some ingenuity there too, because Krusty Burger actually shares the same kitchen with 3 broomsticks right next to it. So it's kind of a nice duality there. Nice use of space saving. But those facades have to be filled with something.
Efficiency on those planners.
Right. And so, to the bigger issue, from what I understand, the contract for Simpsons and the agreement that Universal had to license out that property is limited. That might be coming up, to its conclusion. And yeah, I think I agree with you. It's like, hey, look, listen, we're going to have to do something about this attraction. I have to do something about these facades as it relates to the Fast and the Furious building being built right next door. Should we get out of this now rather than later? And I think they are. As far as what they'll actually theme it to, I think, to echo Wizard's point, I think the front of it will be very much LA themed, and that leaves the rest of it. I don't know. I've heard maybe Diagon Alley. I've heard, maybe some other property that's maybe a little bit hotter than Simpsons and that can move more food and merch.
Could be very exciting. I think the connective tissue here in this video today is that Universal doesn't want a Disney property on their real estate, that being Absolutely. The Simpsons. Mm-hmm. And OLC also doesn't want a Disney property on their real estate, that being Tiana's Bayou Adventure. So, hope for 2 in this one today, Disney. Hopefully you'll get your act together. That's what we hope for, because we like going to theme parks, and we want all of these theme parks to succeed. But we're going to need some adults to get in the room at one of these companies. All right, Theme Park Wizard, where can people find you on this great, big, beautiful web out there?
You can find me on Theme Park Wizard on YouTube, or as in the little white box below, at Park Wizard 1 on Twitter.
Fantastic. And Vash, how can people discover you?
Hey, best place to find me is going to be at VashSky on Twitter. It's right down there, just below my my head there. You can go ahead and type that in, and it should pop up. And if you want to see me, well, I'm going to be on Orange Grove 55 primarily, where occasionally doing some stuff with Pro and some stuff with Arena and so forth, but that's where my home base is for sure, where my show there is. Freshly Squeezed, your source for juicy news and info, squeezed fresh right from the Grove. And for Valerie Stewart, this one is for you.
Go. All right, folks, make sure you drop a comment down below. Tell us what you think could possibly go in this area at Universal Studios Hollywood, and tell us whether you think that the Oriental Land Company should acquiesce to Disney's demands and drop Splash Mountain, the last remaining Splash Mountain, in favor of Tiana's Bayou Adventure. I have a feeling I know how that's going to go in terms of the popularity thereof. But whatever the results may be, folks, you're the electricity that drives this channel. We thank you so much for all of the growth, all of the success, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.